Hey guys, thanks for coming to hang out here on the sessions. A friendly reminder that you can hang out with me in more than one place because I'm also on AMP. Just download the app, come hang out with us Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Just get a little more sessions in your life. We all need it. Kenny King here on the sessions. This is a long time coming. I feel like you and I have been DMing, having some conversations. It's time to get this ball rolling. And here we are. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I'm well. When we first started this, there was no child, and now there
I
is a child.
know. God, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. How's
Woo!
motherhood?
It's great. It is just great. Aren't kids, especially like, I feel like you and I can probably put our heads together on this one because like having a little girl is just like, ooh, chef's kiss. They're
It
just
really is.
cute.
It really is. I remember because I mean, I've got a little brother, I've got nephews, so I was, I had raised a bunch of little boys, and then, this little girl comes, and I can remember like the first time I'm changing a diaper, and I'm looking like, wait a minute,
Hold on.
wait a
This looks
second,
complicated.
wait a minute, what am I supposed to do here? This is so my mom was like, always right to the back. I was like, all
Front
right,
to
mom,
back, baby.
front to back. Once I got front to back down, I think it all was down from there.
Talk to me about how quickly it goes, though, from learning the whole, wow, I got to wipe front to back. I've got this little girl, all these little things, to now you have like this full-fledged, like blossoming woman that's just this like beautiful piece of work.
The crazy thing about it is, and you'll get this pretty soon, is that uh, as soon as you get good at one phase of it, right? Like, okay, I got the nap
Yep.
time, I got the diaper, I got this. As soon as you get one phase, and they're completely onto something else, and
The
then like,
game has
wait,
changed.
I
Yep.
just. So, and that is also simultaneously like the best thing about it, because like you get
Mhm.
to see how, you know, once they get this routine, and then they grow into something else, and then they grow into something else, and it's all growth. So we went from being daddy's little princess to, I was telling Sparks, boyfriends, and she's got a job. So it's I'm now catching up to this teenage phase, which is crazy.
It's so crazy how, like you said, it's like you think you've got a grasp on something, and then it's like, just kidding, on to the next thing. And I feel like, so Nora's going to be 2 in June. And I just feel like in the almost 2 years of being a mother, it's juggling like, okay, I'm working, I'm doing this, I've got these things on the back burner, I've got all these other things, motherhood, she's in this phase, all this. It's like, I just feel like it's been really hard to get into a proper rhythm. Did you find that at all, of like trying to juggle all the different things while staying on the ball as a parent? And like, I never know what my schedule is or what's happening. Like, I feel like I'm pulled in a million different directions. I don't know.
It's never. I'm
You're
joined. I'm
getting some
joined.
love there from that
Yeah, I'm
cat.
joined by my cat. Yeah, it's the thing is, like, it never gets any better, because she's going to then, I'm sure, dance or taekwondo or whatever she wants, soccer, whatever she wants to
Mm.
do is going to come up soon. So that's really when it gets crazy, because then it's okay. Then there's school, and then there's extracurriculars, and then we have to do homework, and then so it's. I remember thinking, being so happy when she went from elementary school to middle school, because that's like a full day,
Right.
and then thinking, how did I get 3 more hours and I got nothing else done? Like, there's no way that
Yeah.
went by. Us 3 extra hours that went by so fast. So it's a crazy, crazy thing. It never, it
It
never, it never
is.
lightens up. You get a grasp of it, right? When you have a schedule, and you have like order to it, but it's always going to be something.
I feel like being a good dad and being like a good male role model for your daughter seems to be pretty top of agenda for you as a human being. Um, what are the things you kind of think about? I like having a daughter and your relationship with her and her understanding like her relationship with men.
Well, early on, I I looked at some of the women that I knew in my life with daddy issues. Uh,
Sure.
and,
We all know a few.
oh, right, right, and it was either the daddy issues of not being, hugged enough, or being hugged too much.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was just one of those things. Like, well, what kind of person do I want to raise, and what kind of relationship do I want to have with her? And for me, it was always, I always wanted to, you have to go through certain phases to get to like where I'm at now, right? But
Hmm.
I always wanted it to be a situation where one day she called me and said, Dad, this guy said, XYZ. And I laughed at him and told her, my dad said you were gonna say that. And then I was just gonna be like, I'm done, baby. I did it. Like, don't call me no more. No more
Did
money. You're
it.
good.
Yeah.
But it was just that, and just wanted to have open communication, right? Open communication. The boyfriend thing was what it took to get the final, like, okay, Dad, this is what it is. You know what I mean? I always give her props because it takes her a while. She goes around the block a bit, but she always kind of like, lays it on me. And I attribute that to just I've always wanted to have just open lines of communication, whatever it is, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll go nuclear on the inside, but I'll, show her that this is a safe place for her to come and talk to me. And so that relationship is something that I hope carries on forever. Stop, please.
Yeah, there's just something so cool about that father-daughter relationship, and watching John become a father and seeing some of his edges soften with our daughter, and seeing the way that he talks about her and lights up at like pictures of her when all the cute little things that these kids do. But yeah, it's pretty funny, I think, when you're a dude that has this sort of like hard wrestler persona that's like, no, we gotta like soften up a little bit and like teach these kids how to be human beings. It's a pretty fun little ride. I enjoy
It
it.
is. It is.
Little
It's probably
cutie.
definitely easier for little girls and little boys to melt dad. So
Yeah.
I think we both got, me and John both got exactly what we needed.
Yes. Yep. 100%. Okay. So dadhood is going well. Let's talk personal life stuff, because again, I feel like I observe your life from the outside. Obviously for me, a bulk of it starting with watching you on The Bachelorette. And I was like, wow, Kenny King, what a catch. What a catch. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I was really kind of pissed that you weren't the next Bachelor. Was there conversations about that?
It was crazy because it started and then it got to a point where I was a little nervous because
Okay.
there were the tweets or whatever, and then people would Kenny for Bachelor, but then there was like articles written about it and stuff, and I was like, well, wait, because
Just getting some steam.
yeah, and it made me a little nervous, but I did obviously was never going to happen, but it was one of those things where like that could have been crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge commitment. It's a huge opportunity, but just to see that there were that many people that were invested and that many people that kind of wanted to see that happen, it was very humbling. And I dug it. I was like, man, well, thanks. My little grassroots campaign, but no thanks.
It's funny too, because like I feel like you walked out of that show as like, oh, good guy Kenny. There's a good guy on the show that seemed like you had good intentions and you have good fundamentals, like all of these things. Is there something to being the good guy that gets in the way? Do they need someone that's going to kind of stir the pot a little bit and like,
Well, I think I mean, the thing about it is that it is a brilliantly done social experiment, right?
sure.
And by this point, they've got it down to a science thing, and it's all comes through casting. You know
Yeah.
exactly whose personalities may not mix with this, who's will mix with this, who will
Mhm.
make good TV, who's going to be a lunatic, like who's going to be who. So, it was a great experience, but at the end of the day, like Rachel and I was our relationship was just like, she's just a great person, like she's cool. We always were like real cool. So
Yeah.
and it's just hard to date somebody like that. It's hard to, when the conventional dating is, if I see you, we're texting, we're talking, and then to not see someone, or when you're trying to get to know them, once a week or twice a week, and then have to hang out with, 28 other dudes that are trying to date her at the same
What
time.
the hell? Like, what a trip to
It's
like
a
go
crazy
stay in
experience.
the same room with those people. You're like, wait, you're trying to date the person I'm trying to date? Like, how is that not so cutthroat?
It is. Oh no, it's very cutthroat. It's very cutthroat.
Yeah,
I think the girls are a little more cutthroat than the guys, but
sure. Girls can get a little nasty. We know that.
but it's because then it becomes like, competition. You got all these alpha dudes in the house, and then, but I feel like my season, even now, like I feel like we had such a core group of cool guys. We
Yeah.
clicked. We still have group chat. And it was just such a core group of dudes that I remember the producers would be like, "Man, do you guys want to go on dates? You just want to hang out with each other?" I'm like, "Both, right? Both." You go into the experience thinking that you're just gonna hate all these dudes and be side eyeing everybody,
Yeah.
and then when everybody's cool, it's like, oh, I gotta go. Oh, okay, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'm going on this date. I'll be right back.
Let me go knock this out real quick and we'll come back
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
get down to the shenanigans that we were up to. How did being on the show affect your dating life afterwards?
My DMs were very healthy.
Very
They
healthy.
were very healthy afterward. It was cool, and even now, people will identify with certain parts of what they saw with me, and I was just a guy trying to find someone to hang out with me and my little girl, and
Yeah.
that was kind of the deal. Um, it led to, because in Vegas is a crazy, not
Sure. How
very.
is dating in Vegas? Like I
It's terrible.
couldn't imagine. Is it
It's
worse? Do you think
awful.
it's worse than trying to date in LA?
I think it's on equal
Yeah.
footing. I
Yeah.
think dating everywhere is pretty bad, I think, at this point. But I think LA and Vegas are, because it's the same type of people, it's the
Yeah.
same type of facades and
Yeah.
fronts, and people are just superficial. What kind of car do you drive? What do you do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You in the industry? Are you in the industry? What, like,
What
so?
can you do for me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, what I was doing after, like, I was just kind of dating long distance. I was accepting, like, okay, she's from here, she's from here. But I realized that I hate long distance, so that didn't work out.
Yeah. No, so wait, why long distance until you realized that that didn't work? Was it like on purpose to have a little buffer?
At first, right? Yes, a little buffer, a little space is always good, right? But it was just because I was just kind of over, bottle girls, and even like regular job nurses and people in Vegas,
Sure.
a little kind of sideways too. So I just kind of was like, all right, well, let me give somebody from Georgia chances, and it
Sure.
was
Let's go to Nebraska. What's up in Nebraska?
nothing, nothing.
That's so funny. Like, yeah, it's just such a funny little like fishbowl kind of scenario of like, oh, you're on this dating show. Great. You seem like a good guy. And then everyone's just kind of swarming you. But yeah, looking at like the Vegas scene, I can't even imagine what that's like in real life. Why do you live in Vegas? How did that happen?
Uh, well, it's a long story. The longest of all stories, short,
Okay, well,
is
we got some time.
so initially, my parents moved to Vegas when I went to college in Florida. So I went to University of South Florida, Florida State, and then South Florida. But in Florida and Tampa is where I ended up settling. And if we were going through like a transitionary period, went from like one AA to D1 to like different conferences. So it was a kind of a crazy period of time. And I really wasn't happy being there. So my dad was like, "Why don't you come out to UNLV
What were you?
to
Sorry, what was your sport?
football?"
Okay.
Why don't you come to UNLV? And I was like, well, UNLV's terrible. Like, I'm not gonna go out there and play. Like, I'm good where I'm at. As dads do, and it was crazy because I would do this, but as dads do, like he went and took my highlight tape and put it on the defensive coordinator's desk and was like,
Love it.
"There's my
Love it.
son. You guys aren't very good. You could probably use him." And
Love
I
it.
got a phone call. Ended up so to accelerate the story a little bit. I ended up transferring, but I couldn't play at UNLV that year. Someone in South Florida held my transcripts. They got lost or something like that. So in that,
What?
so I moved to Vegas in August of 2001, but I couldn't report on the team. So I actually had to forfeit a year of eligibility.
Oh
So
shit.
yeah, yeah. So in that, I'm actually like a civilian regular person. That's how I ended up seeing. I'm walking on campus and I open up the it's called the Rebel Yell, and I see this big "Are you tough enough?" ad. So I'm like,
Yes. You're
I
like, I
remember
am.
I can remember watching the first season and being like, "Oh man, I can do that. I could do that." And then it was just like, "Well, kid, put your money where your mouth is." So that's how I ended up trying out for Tough Enough, because I was couldn't play
Just a
football.
little downtime.
Couldn't play
Wow.
football. And then coming back, so we filmed the show December to maybe February is when we filmed the show. The show starts up in like April. So April starts, and I'm supposed to come back and play spring ball, but I think I won tough enough. So I was like, yeah, about that. I'm not coming back to play football anymore. So the football coaches were not very happy with me. So that's how I ended up moving here the first time. Moved back to
That's so
Florida
funny.
in '05. Met my daughter's mom, had a baby, and moved back here in '09. So that's kind of how.
Wow.
But really, I moved back here to be closer to my kid, um,
Yeah.
and
Oh my gosh.
that's
So,
how it.
okay, so what was the conversation that you had with your coach as you're this like hot prospect and you're like, I'm going to go be a pro wrestler now? How did that go down?
It didn't go well. It was
I'm
like, all right,
sure it
TV,
didn't.
all right, TV star, like it's time to come back and play football, right? Blah 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, because what happened was like we filmed the show, and then there was the show it ran, and then we went back and trained, and then there was actually like the live show. So I thought I won. There was no real reason. Like, man, what if I go and I get hurt in spring, and then I got to sign this deal? And he just couldn't believe me. Like, you mean to tell me like we brought you all the way out here, and you don't want to do this? I'm like, well, not that I don't want to do this, but I did this, and this is going to get me a lot further than this is right now. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't. I was persona non grata in the athletics department for a long time. I couldn't even go in there and work out. Like I had to.
No. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you start to get the wrestling bug, obviously, but did you have really any previous experience other than opening up and seeing this flyer and being like tough enough? Were you like a wrestling fan or
Yeah, no, I was a big wrestling fan. Like
okay.
I've been a wrestling fan pretty much my whole life at that point.
Yeah,
But it was just not. It was not like today where there's wrestling schools.
everywhere.
It was like,
Sure.
how do you become an astronaut? Like, there's no real way
Yeah.
to figure out how to be a wrestler. So that was kind of the only way in. And really, at that point, I didn't really want to be a wrestler as much as I just wanted to be on MTV.
Okay.
So that happened, and then I kind of got bit, and then I was like, well, I got to figure out how to keep doing this. And so I didn't. So at that point, after the first Tough Enough, I had noticed, and this is kind of when the internet was just starting, and then you start to hear about how like these other contestants from the first Tough Enough would go to like indie shows and just completely shit the bed, like which is terrible and get booed out.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was literally the last thing that I wanted to do. So there was a school here in Vegas that ended up contacting me, and they were like, "Hey, if you come here and say we can say Kenny from Tough Enough trains here, then you can come and train for free." So I was like, "Man, that's
Deal.
easy." So I ended up training for a year after Tough Enough before I took any indie bookings.
Wow, that's really cool. It's funny because I feel like so much stuff like in wrestling is obviously based upon someone's respect for the business and for you to be able to go in that way and like let me like I don't want to go out and be one of those guys that just like throws your name on a banner, go out, have a bad match because people don't forget that shit, right?
No, they don't. They don't. They really don't. Especially if you have, a name or you came
Yeah.
from a thing.
You're anticipating the fall. You're anticipating the person biting it. And then if you give them a reason to go, yeah, I knew this guy was the shit. And it's like, no, no, no. Let me put in that
100%.
work. Get this ball rolling.
And I
That's
was the
so
shits at
funny.
first, right? Like I was the shit. So I would have absolutely gotten booked in some place that I had no business being against somebody that I probably had no business being in there with and getting exposed. So it made sense to me at the time.
We've seen so many different, an athlete from a different sport transitioning their way into professional wrestling. How different is it when you are a football player? You're used to working out. You're used to, doing all the different things that a football player does to stepping into a ring. How
There's nothing
eye-opening was that?
there's nothing like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You can train like a football player all you want, but there's nothing like the continuous active recovery that you have to be in as a wrestler. Like you have to be mindful of so many things at the same time. Um, And it's not like, I mean, football, you have to be mindful of a lot of things, but then there's also like a sort of reckless aggression, or reckless abandon that you can kind of lean into when you don't know what's going on. You can just knock somebody over, right?
You don't have to worry
Um,
about storytelling.
no, right. You never once have to engage the crowd while also still trying to make things happen and keep,
Yeah.
not kill somebody at the same time. So there's so much to it when I first got into it, and that's kind of what bit me. It was just like, wow, I had no idea that's just what this was, and it took so much to do it well.
Hmm.
Um, so there is nothing like pro wrestling, like even training for it. If I remember training like to try to get in shape for matches, like I would train for football, and it just you can't do it the same. You have to train completely different. Your active recovery has to be always up because you're always in a state of getting down, getting up,
Sure. You've always just gotten
talking.
a car crash. You've always been in a car crash.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's really
it's
funny that you say that too, because I feel like that was sort of my understanding as well when I was like broadcasting in Toronto and working on these different shows and whatnot. But then once I got like really in the belly of the beast of working in wrestling and understanding that, like, oh, your brain has to be firing on all different cylinders, even as a broadcaster here, because like we're still telling stories in a different capacity. I'm going to talk about a heel differently than I'm talking about a baby face. I'm going to stand differently when I'm next to one or the other. It's all these different things that you have to be thinking about no matter what the capacity is. And there's something really fun about like truly trying to wrap your head around the psychology, why someone's doing something, what the story is that's being told. And I think that's really where we all get kind of bit by that bug.
Yeah, I agree. There's just so much to it, and if you have any twinge of perfectionist in you,
Oh
then
God, I know.
then
Good
then the
luck.
thing is like uh then the thing is like you never like the last thing that you did, and you always want to do it better the next time, and
Sure.
so there's just never any I tell my students, if ever you
We're
feel at this
never
stage,
happy.
yeah, I tell my students, if ever at this stage you feel like you had a good match, shut up. Right? Shut up. Don't, because I bet you if we watch it back, because I can remember one time there's guys that I broke in with here, and we did this three-way in California, and I can remember we did it, put it together, and we're on the way back talking about, oh my God, we should get signed from that match. It was so good, and I mean back, and we're just putting ourselves over. And they ended up getting signed to FCW. This is years and years and years later, and we found the tape
Oh
of
shit.
that match and watched that bullshit back and laughed. We're like, we were really talking about how we could be on the main roster right
That
now.
was my mania match. Yeah.
So, it should be like that though, right? You should always think that you're doing well, but find the next level.
Sure. Yeah. And it's like, exactly. You got to build upon each thing. But do you go back and watch a lot of your stuff now, or do you not find is it productive to go back and kind of, look at everything under a microscope at this point in your career?
I don't know if it's productive. I will do it sometimes, just to kind of keep myself honest about the
Hmm.
things that I know. That, I mean, there are things that I yell at my students about that I watch myself do on TV and be like, whoops. So um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so that is kind of a way just to keep yourself honest, keep yourself just all right. I need to do, but also it's not terribly productive either, because it's then I'm picking everything apart,
It can be
and
a
then
slippery slope, right? Where now you're like,
right,
now my confidence is in the shitter because
right,
damn,
right,
I
right.
really, yeah, it can be bad.
Why am I
Yeah.
even here? That was bad. That was bad. That was bad. So it's yeah, I have to be careful about how I approach that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so you mentioned before about getting into Tough Enough and how it was really kind of a platform. You're like, I want to get on MTV. That's a thing that I want to be a part of. But you were like a child actor, right?
Yeah, I was on
Talk to me
probably
about that.
all of your favorite Nickelodeon shows. I probably was on. I did stints on Welcome Freshman. I was on a bunch of commercials for Snick. Remember the big orange couch? And so I lived in
Yeah.
Orlando, so I was a Nickelodeon kid. I was on My Brother and
Gosh.
Me. Uh, I did the pilot for Legends of the Hidden Temple. I did motion capture for the Guts Super Nintendo video game.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so to be like that Orlando kid during that time, because yeah, it's really kind of funny what that kind of bubble was of all the things that were happening in Orlando of all places. What was that kind of vibe like when you think of like, I mean, Mandy Moore is the first person that pops to mind because I feel like she's talked about that a lot of being like also an Orlando kid, growing up there, getting into the music industry that way. But what was that like, sort of that world? I feel like everyone thinks of like LA and Hollywood, but that really was the hub in Orlando, especially as a kid to kind of get your foot in the door.
Yeah, kid for child acting, for music. I mean, and it's crazy because it was like we all ran in the same. Joey Fatone and I went to the same high school. Wayne
Oh
Brady and I went to the
shit.
same high school. So it's a
I
crazy
didn't know
thing.
Wayne Brady was one of those Orlando guys too. Okay.
Yeah, Wayne Brady and I had the same acting coach. Shout out to Karen Regario, Mr. Regario. So did Wesley
Hey.
Snipes. So did Wesley Snipes actually. Mr. Regario got
Oh,
Snipes also. So there's a
okay.
pattern here with Mr. Regario.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, Orlando was uh, because of the Disney thing, and then and then Universal Studios opened, but Nickelodeon Studios was the first. Because there were like shows and stuff being shot at like Sequest, and like I think Superboy was shot at Universal, but there was nothing really like continuous production until Nickelodeon Studios came in. Once Nickelodeon Studios came in, then it was like everything from Nickelodeon was being shot there all the time. And then it was like uh I think I did like some extra work or something. And then I was like, well, my dad was like, we doing some acting classes. And then it was uh a little bit toward I think my ninth grade year, my parents were like, all right, you have to slow down because you're not going to school. And
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
some
You
of these
must have been
sometimes
making like kind of good money as a child, though, no?
I mean, my parents were making good money as a kid, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, which,
I'm
but
sure
that
we were
must
doing
have
fine.
been enticing for them to be like, damn, okay, we got this. I don't know what your parents do for a living, but if you've got your kid also bringing in this other income, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, they were doing well, but it was also it was a thing where that it was kind of exciting. You know, it was exciting for them too, like to be on sets and go
Yeah.
back and forth. So it was a cool little time. Um, and then right after I kind of got out of it is like when the whole boy band thing like really like blew up. So
Yeah.
Orlando's like low key been a really big hub for like a lot of your favorite entertainers in general have come out of Orlando.
It's really, does it feel that way growing up there as someone that kind of has those stars in their eyes? Does it feel kind of like that cutthroat? You're in Orlando, you have all the resources there to kind of make your dreams come true. Like I remember that kind of growing up in Toronto. And I grew up outside of Toronto, but knowing like, oh my God, this actor's from here and this acting coach, and I can go to Second City and I can go to all these places that are these like things that you can really put a stamp on your resume with. Were you like very aware of all of the resources you had there to kind of make something of yourself?
Yes and no, because it's not really like a real place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because um
It's
when you
Vegas
live
for kids.
yeah, when you live there and then there's Disney, like my high school is literally right across the street from Universal Studios.
Mm.
So uh and working there, it was like every other day we're like, well, pick up my homeboy and like, well, do we want to go to school? Like, no, let's just go to Universal. And so it's a crazy thing to be in your in your science class and hear people screaming from the dueling dragons. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's not a real place. You just kind of know that that's there's a lot of stuff happening, and if you want to get involved in that then literally all you have to do is go across the street. And I mean, I did some stuff at
Yeah.
Disney, so it was a perfect place and for that opportunity, and still is. It was a girl, so I just saw Cocaine Bear,
Oh, I've
and
not seen it yet.
the girl, like there's like a main little girl in it, and I'm looking at her like, God, she looks like her face. Like why do I know this face? Why do I know this face? She's the daughter of a girl that I used to date that is an acting coach in Orlando. It's like
Ah,
what? I'm looking at as soon as I saw like uh
the
the
credits.
credits and I saw her face, it's like, oh my God, that's Courtney's daughter. So it's crazy how it's even still like that.
Does it feel very like small world there in that sense of like everyone is really kind of connected? Because yeah, I mean, shit, you rattle off some of the things during that time of when you would have been working, and it's like the Britney Spears, the Christina Aguileras, the Mandy Moores, the Justin Timberlakes, like they were all up in there. Like, did it feel like it was a pretty small little world of everyone being pretty connected?
I mean, you got to see everybody. Like I did some stuff at Disney
Child stars are fascinating to me.
with when there were, with Justin, not with, but like and got to see Justin and Brittany. Like I was a little older too, so
Yeah.
um like the Mickey Mouse Club stuff, I'd kind of aged out of by the time they were on it.
You couldn't
But
have been that far off, right?
not
What's the
much,
age
but
difference? Can't be far off.
like 4 years. But like when
Okay.
but Mickey Mouse Club is like 11, you're done. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So and they have like, I mean, just like everything, Hollywood is strict cutoff ages. So
sure.
um, I mean, I auditioned for the Mickey Mouse Club once, but it didn't go. I didn't get that. Um, but yeah, you see everybody because everybody's kind of at the same auditions or like backstage or so it was cool to then be like, oh,
So
oh,
interesting.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
That's
That was
really
a
cool.
cool.
Do you see your daughter having any bit of that bug?
Yeah, she definitely. I mean, she's crazy because she wants to do it, but then she's like, well, I'm like, all right, well, let's get into some acting classes. And she's like, but Dad, I don't like to talk like in public. I'm like, well, that's kind of like 90% of it. So,
Yeah.
well,
Well, you
she
can kind of hide behind the mask of a character to a degree to
to
maybe
a
get out of that
degree,
shell a little bit.
but you still have to physically do the act of talking in front of people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she had auditioned for some things. Like she's a dance, like she's been in dance for a while, so she's very comfortable on stage as far as like dancing. And but it's the thing of this once you're speaking, there's a spotlight on you that she hasn't kind of gotten out of yet. But she's you know wants to. All the kids want to be like YouTubers and like TikTok famous and like all this
Right.
stupid stuff. So,
Right, right, right.
but she's also smart enough to be like, well, I need a degree first before I go into to I can do all that stuff at the same time. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You absolutely can do all
Smart
that stuff at
kid.
the same time. So
Smart kid. Okay, so you go and you put in your year's worth of training after doing Tough Enough. Where do you go from there to start getting some buzz around yourself to start getting signed?
SoCal was there in Vegas at that time. It's a lot different from now. There was a few things in Arizona, like well, a few things in Utah, and SoCal was like really the main thing.
Yeah.
UPW, Rick Bassman, UPW. Shout out to Rick Bassman. Had names like Samoa Joe, the Prototype, Christopher Daniels,
Yeah.
Tom Howard, Spanky, I think, was there. Paul London was definitely there. Frankie Kazarian was definitely there.
Yes.
So that's the big indie that you're trying to get into, and then there's like smaller ones. So it was one of those things where a guy named Jesse Hernandez. He's a ex WWE ref, but he has a Fed down there. So shout out to Jesse Hernandez who gave me some of my first bookings. So it's like one of those things. Like, all right, now I feel confident in at least putting together some matches and doing this stuff. And then I have to kind of now book myself as Tough Enough Kenny because it's been a year and you still don't want to kind of people to forget. So I kind of did Tough Enough, Tough Enough's Kenny for a while until people started to kind of understand who Kenny King was.
Was that a good thing to have attached to your name in terms of getting yourself out there, or was it something that you kind of wanted to shake to hurry up and get to the next point in your career?
It was a necessary evil because, like I said, it had already been a year since Tough Enough,
Yeah.
and I think at that point there was like Tough Enough 3 was already even airing. I think when I started taking any bookings, so I took a different route from this is the guy on Tough Enough. Let's get a bunch of different bookings. So I felt like I had to kind of be like, okay, this is the guy from Tough Enough. And then it was detrimental in the sense that guys in the locker room I mean,
Right.
that's just what it is.
Right.
You look like indie lifers who are looking at me sideways because, oh, you were on TV, you think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once I got in there and I I worked hard. I proved that I could, do it at the level, whatever level that was at even then. And people were impressed. Oh, he apparently takes it seriously. He's, this is what he wants to do. And that's kind of how I kept getting booked. So by doing it like that and getting booked by just kind of showing up and, knowing my shit is how I was
Yeah.
able to shake the Tough Enough Kenny label.
What else were you doing during that time? Because you got to be juggling many different things while you're training, you're taking some indie bookings. Did you have other jobs at the time, or were there other avenues that you were like considering?
Absolutely. I was selling timeshare to support my wrestling habit at the time.
Oh,
I was slinging timeshare on the
do
Vegas
people
Strip.
still do that? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was talking to a guy yesterday who was talking
Oh,
about how his brother was crazy.
really?
I didn't think it still was because like the model has changed and I don't know
Yeah.
anybody in the business anymore. But I mean it can still be it was lucrative. It was for as a 21-year-old kid living in Vegas, making $40 to drive 4 hours to California. I was
Yeah.
making a good amount of money. I think like I was making like over $100,000 a year selling timeshare,
Wow.
slinging timeshare, partying my ass off, and wrestling. So really just doing that.
You were
So
living the life.
I was doing all right.
You were
I was
doing
doing all
good.
right. Yeah, I was doing all right. So wrestling, and
But
so
it
that's how I
wasn't
knew I wanted to do wrestling because I could have just stuck with timeshare and all that, but
sure.
I was still paying my dues, making doing the drives and making no money wrestling.
But then Kenny had to make it clap. Talk to me about Chippendales. Okay. So things are obviously going well for you. You're making good money. You're wrestling, but we got to get a little extra scratch on the side here. How does Chippendales make its way into your life?
That's all right. So let me just clarify that I've never once ever in my life ever made a clap. Let's just put that out there because that's a soundbite that will travel forever. All right. Now that we got that all out the way, so it's funny that's how everything was. So watch how everything ties in together, right?
Okay.
There was a guy that I know from Orlando that was living with me. It was but me and a buddy of mine that we were renting a house, and he was the singer for the European Chippendales tour, and he wrote three. I think he's got like three songs written on the No Strings Attached for the NSYNC album.
Excuse us. Okay.
Right. So he's an Orlando guy also, right? He had just happened to
Hmm.
be moved out to Vegas. So he was like, "Hey man, do you want to well like would you think about like want to travel like going to the Chippendales?" And I was like, "No, I'm cool, thanks." He's like, "Nah, man, but like you might want to do this. This is a pretty cool gig." I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm cool." So maybe it was like a month or two later, like on his birthday. So he would travel. So he'd be out a lot. Like European, like he'd be in Europe for like 8, 9 weeks at a time and then pop back in and then dip again. And I think it was his birthday. He was like, "Yo, it's my birthday. We're gonna go to we're gonna go to Chippendales and so you can see what the show." I was like, "Bro, I don't want to do this. Why do you think? What makes you think I want to go and watch a bunch of dudes in banana hammocks oil each other out? Like I'm chill, I'm cool. It's my birthday, bro. Like you don't have a choice. All right, fine, right, whatever." I go on to protest, and then I go to the show, and then I see 600, 700 women in the audience, and then I see what it is, which is not really. It's different. It's not like this like you're like a strip club or like Magic Mike. It's actually like a choreographed show where there's like
Yeah.
set changes and wardrobe and stuff like that. So I'm looking at this choreography. I'm like, all right, that's like wrestling spots. That's all right. And then I'm looking at these 700 women go crazy in the crowd. I'm like, I'm
Get their
tripping.
wallets out.
I'm
Yeah.
tripping, but even then there's no tips. Like you get paid per show.
Oh,
So
okay.
and then
Okay.
so like afterward, like there's pictures where the women can come up and take pictures, and that's like kind of like how this like the only tipping situation, but it's not even
Okay.
like that. But so I was like, well, you know what? I ain't doing nothing this summer. I could take I could take a month off. And so I went to Europe for 2 months. Um, my very first, we did the Berlin Arena, and my very first show at Chippendales, I think there was like we drew like 8,000 women, and I
Oh
hadn't
my
drawn at that
goodness.
point. I hadn't drawn more than like been at a wrestling show that had more than 500 people. So I'm like, what is going on? So there are these big stadium shows, and it was so that's how that happened. That happened
Oh my
right
gosh.
before I met my daughter's mom. I did some tours of Chippendales, and then I moved to Florida, and then I quit Chippendales, and then
Wow, what a great little chapter in your life.
but then I moved back to Vegas,
And then,
and then so the show it's there's only like so there's the European tour, and then there's the Vegas show, and the Vegas show is like there's 10 guys, and there's like you have to either die or get fired to get out
okay.
of the show, and then I ended up running into one of the guys at uh grocery store or whatever. And he's like, hey man, like, are you back? You need to be back in the Vegas show, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, that ship has sailed. I'm cool. About an hour later, I get a phone call from the producer, like, what's up, man? So
Ah,
I got back in the Vegas show. I did the Vegas show from 2010 to 2015, was on three
dang.
#1 selling calendars in the world. Um, and
Damn.
that's how that,
Look at
that's how
you go. I feel like you're just like destined. You're like that guy. You've done Chippendales. You're out as a professional wrestler. You're a child actor. Like the spotlight is just meant to be on you.
I tried the office 9 to 5 timeshare thing, and I break out in hives. So it's not my thing.
How different is a Chippendales locker room than a wrestling locker room?
Do you know who asked me that question once?
Huh, huh.
Kurt Angle asked me that question once, right? And
Okay.
and it's remarkably similar.
I'm sure.
It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same type of guys, the same insecurities, the same backstabbing bullshit. It's this. I mean, like if you could take
I bet. I bet.
you could literally interchange them. It's hilarious in that respect.
It really is the same in terms of like, all right, we've got the little oil station before we walk out the curtain. Everyone spray your hair down. You've got your gear. There's, you got your tanner, make sure everything's where it needs to be.
Here's some weights. Here's some bands. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah. All of that. Okay, so here's a fun question. If you were to put together your lineup of Chippendales dancers, performers with professional wrestlers, who would your crew be?
how many do I get?
I mean, you said 10 for Vegas. That seems like a lot to put you on the spot to answer, but you tell me. 7? Do we want 7?
All right,
5?
I'll give you 7.
Okay.
Uh, let's go Finn Balor for the abs.
Sure, sure.
Uh, let's go Bobby Lashley just for the sheer size. Um, let's go Ziggler for the hair.
Oh, Ziggler, is good for it. He's
Yeah,
good for it for
Ziggler
sure.
for the hair.
He's got the booty shakedown too.
Yes,
He
yes,
does.
yes. Um, who else? Who else could get in on this? Um, Willie Mack for the
Okay.
hips. Nobody
Yeah.
got the hips like Willie. And the funny thing is, he said, we were going back and forth one day because that's my boy. We go back and forth, and I said, you know what, Willie, you keep talking shit to me, and I'm gonna open up the Chunkendales, and I'm gonna feature you as the main guy. So Willie could be our Chunkendale. Shout out to Willie Mack.
I love it.
Um,
Gosh, I'm trying to like rattle off some names in my head too of who I think could kind of get in there.
I think we got to put Roman in there just he's just a fucking big
He's
set.
got that essence, the
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think that's 6. We got one more. Let's see.
yeah, let's get one more in there. You obviously would be the lead,
I'm the guy. Yeah,
Chippendale. You're the guy.
I'm the
You
feature.
gotta orchestrate the whole show, but we got to have the background performers. Who else has like the great? I mean, there's a million guys with great abs, obviously. The idea of Bobby Lashley doing Chippendales is very funny to me.
Oh, it's to me. That's the best thing. Right? I think the best thing would be we would have to have like a backstage camera for Bobby learning the choreography.
Yeah,
Like, that would
yeah.
be,
How hard was it to learn to like dance though? Like, did that come naturally to you?
hell no. Like I don't know. 8 counts, 1 and 2, 1,
No.
2. First it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they change it 1 and 2. And like, wait, what? Wait, what? So no, it took a while for me to learn because we had we had a like shoot a guy named Glenn Packard. he's a real like a shoot Hollywood choreographer. So
Yeah.
um and he was, you know, very patient with me. So I appreciate it.
That's really cool though to like be in Vegas and have a job like that where you're like, I get to go do my thing, but then I'm actually just going home from here. Like, I feel like I always thought that like when I lived out in Vegas, anytime I'm in like a yoga class, I'm like cirque performer, dancer, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Hmm.
you're kind of like
Hmm.
trying to like pinpoint what everybody's doing. But to go have a show like that and then just like drive back home, get on the highway, shut her down. It's a pretty great little office job.
It was all right. Shows when I was doing it, shows were at 8, and they were 90-minute shows, and
Great.
usually by depending on if I was getting into any nonsense or not, I was home by 10:30.
Great. Okay, so that took up a big chunk of your time.
Yeah, I
You
was
you
doing
you
that.
weren't you weren't doing both at the same time. You
Oh
couldn't.
yeah, yeah. I
You
was doing
were.
I was flying at one point. I was doing Chippendale Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, flying out Wednesday, doing live impact Thursday, Friday,
Holy
Saturday, flying
shit.
back in. I was doing 7 days a week.
How did you let your body recover? You must have been
I was
exhausted.
beat to shit. I was a little younger, so it was fine, but I was beat to shit most
Sure.
of the time.
Oh my God. Okay, so you're able to, wrap up the Chippendales party, just stay focused on Impact and on wrestling. Was it nice to kind of just clear your schedule and just focus on the one thing?
Yeah, it was. It was mostly because also like, when I'm home, I want to be with my daughter, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was also a thing. I mean, thank God during that time, like, I have family out here where, I can pick her up from school. We do homework. I drop her off with my mom or my sister before I go to work and then pick
Yeah.
her up. And there were even times like where they would every now and then have us like travel to do different things. So it was a lot that I didn't have to do all of a sudden when I was just focused. By that point, I think I had went back to Ring of Honor. So um,
Okay.
it was good to just have those dates. And just then at that point, I was really just focused on being a dad.
Is there more stuff at Ring of Honor that you would be interested in doing it all now? Or are we just sticking with Impact and Impact alone?
I like what I see over there. I think that I would kill for another chance to wrestle Claudio Castagnoli. I think
Oh,
he's always been one of my
yes.
favorites. Um,
Yeah.
so I like what they got going on over there. And if there's an opportunity uh, at some point to go over there, then I definitely wouldn't be opposed to that or any other wrestling opportunity for
Sure.
the next couple of years while you still have me.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about what's going on at Impact now. You guys got a great roster over there.
We really do. We've got a roster of from top. I mean, I don't even know where top to bottom. I like to say that, but from side to side, let's say that right.
Yeah.
From
Coast to
side to side,
coast.
is just filled with amazing people that wrestle amazing at their styles, right? Like we've
Yeah.
got so many different styles of wrestler on the Impact roster. Our women's roster is completely insane right now.
You guys have a great women's
The
roster.
knockouts are completely insane right now. So
Yeah.
our shows, the people that come to our shows, we're doing a lot more Canadian shows, which I love. Like we're going to
Yeah,
actually,
you are.
yeah, we're going to Toronto. Well, by the time this airs, we'll have been to Toronto, but
You're
uh,
there this weekend, right? Is that
yeah, I leave
right?
tomorrow. Yeah,
Oh shoot. Where are
so
where are you guys having that show?
I don't know. I'd have to look and see. I don't
I
know.
saw that it was Toronto, but I didn't look to see like where you guys had the show. But Toronto is, I mean, I'll always kind of pat them on the back. I think Canada in general, but Toronto loves them some wrestling. So like they're
It's one of
always a
my
good
favorite places
crowd.
to wrestle. One of my
It's
favorite
gonna
places
be
to.
so good. Yeah. Talk to me about what you guys are doing in Toronto though. You guys have quite the little team built up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've got I'm freelancing right now, so I'm hopping on Team Bully. I mean, Team Bully is the squad, right? It's myself,
Yeah.
obviously Bully Ray, Moose,
Hmm.
Man, Brian Myers, and the absolute Stone Cold Killer Masha Slamovich. I don't even know who's on there, who's on Tommy's team, but they
Who cares? Sorry,
right, right,
Tommy.
right.
Sorry, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy didn't he didn't stack his team the way that Bully stacked his. So that's on you, Tommy.
What's the deal with Masha Slamovich? I hear this name all the time. I've seen some of her like incredible work. Give me a little rundown.
She's terrifying. She's
Yeah.
like 5 foot, 100 pounds, but I really feel like she could kill me at any
Yeah,
moment.
she seems like it. I just started following her on Instagram and I find her like pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
She's a
really cool, really kind of, keeps herself real kind of soft spoken, but she'll kill you. She
Yeah.
will.
It's always those silent killers that you've got to look out for.
You have the smaller ones
100%.
too. Look, someone that you look over while she's tearing your throat out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look
Yeah, yeah.
out. Look
She's
out.
I've seen some of her stuff and been able to watch her just in the ring, and I mean, she's technically sound,
Yeah.
crisp. I mean, she's great.
What all do you still want to do in wrestling? I mean, you mentioned kind of open to any other options and possibilities. What all do you want to accomplish at this point in your career? You've been able to do so much.
I feel like I'm still working at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just so much more that I feel like I could give. You know what I mean? There's so many combinations of matches that I haven't even had yet. My number one goal is to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome.
Ooh.
So I think that's a Wrestle Kingdom
Yeah.
thing and it's great to have great um, relationships and the state of wrestling where it's at, where everything is just kind of wide open and so our relationship with New Japan and Impact, the relationship that I have with CML and New Japan. So
Yeah.
all of those things lead to me being able to wrestle in Japan at Tokyo Dome sooner than later. So that is like my number one goal.
What would that look like for you? I mean, obviously, wrestling at the Tokyo Dome, doing a Wrestle Kingdom. I've been lucky enough to go over there once and witness that, and just to see what that pageantry is like, what those entrances look like. Obviously, what the different style of matches look like. What does that look like for you if you're able to kind of book it yourself?
Oh man, it just looks like me going all out, like with my entrance, like
You
with
have to.
my
You have
gear,
to.
with the style. I mean, it would just be so that kind of for me completes I don't know what they call it, but it completes the thing that we have in
Sure.
wrestling, right? The ECW arena,
Yeah, like those are
Maple Leaf
the
Gardens.
infinity rings of wrestling
Right.
promotions. Yeah.
Maple Leaf Gardens, ECW, Madison Square Garden, Mexico City, and Arena Mexico City, and the Tokyo Dome are the Infinity Rings. So that would
Ooh,
be
I like that. I
that
like
would be
that
my
Maple
Infinity Ring.
Leaf Gardens is on there. That's a good one.
Hmm.
I mean, it's pretty iconic, but
Very
yeah.
iconic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's cool. I mean, I feel like so many people like, yeah, just to be able to go over there. Like when I went over with John when he did Wrestle Kingdom a couple of years ago, and obviously I had never been. I was very much so in the WWE bubble. And for me to be able to pop my head out and be like, wow, check this out. Like
Hmm.
it's so cool to see wrestling from a different perspective, from the way the shows are put together to the way the talent put their matches together. It's really incredible. I had so much fun going over there. I need to go back.
It just shows that wrestling exists outside of whatever bubble that you want to put it
Yeah.
in, right? And the
Yep.
art form, it exists and it thrives and it survives and it does what it's supposed to do wherever you catch it. And I
Yep.
think that's what I love about wrestling. It doesn't matter where you see it, how you love it, who you want to watch doing it. You can find something that's for you because wrestling is really for everybody.
Yep. Agreed. 100%. Well, Kenny, I really hope that we get to see you and Claudio Castagnoli kind of tie it up again. We got to put that out into the universe. We did
Let's do
just
that.
that mere moments ago. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm glad we finally got to connect, and I'm out in Vegas end of May. So hopefully I'll see you out then.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. You guys. Oh wait. I think that might be an Impact weekend. But if not, I definitely
No,
was going to pull up on you AEW
please
for. So
do. Please do. Yeah,
big
that would
time.
be incredible. We're there for a couple days. So hopefully, even if you are gone, you'll be back in
Okay.
time.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. We'll link up. We'll link up because we
Hell
didn't get
yeah.
to link up when we were neighbors. So we'll do it
I
for sure.
know. I know. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. So good to catch up with you.
Thanks for having me. Great talking to you.